So we will kick off this in-depth look at the front pages with the Express, Paul.
Yes, I'm in the Express. Rishi hits the brakes on petrol car ban. So this is the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is preparing to delay a ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 5 years as he puts the brakes on the green drive, they're saying. So this is pushing back from 2030 to 35, still committed to net zero by 2050. So it's that great battle that's emerging, the economy versus the earth, Simon.
Well, I mean, I'm on the economy side personally, although the way you frame it makes that sound like an...
Well, we have to now, don't we? You have to choose a side.
I mean, I suppose one thing that will occur to people, if it was possible to hit net zero by 2050 anyway, why were we ever going to try and do it?
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, you can be cynical about this and say that he's trying to win over the people like they did in Uxbridge that are against ULEZ, you know, small businesses.
Uxbridge is the country's top university, after all.
Well, yes.
I do think there is obviously, as we always know in politics, there is this kind of like, it's not between the economy and the earth, it's between winning the next election, isn't it, and all of the longer term views. But there is definitely also a sense that nobody was quite prepared for the amount of pain that this was going to create, and we haven't created the infrastructure for it yet.
Well, according to what I have heard, is that the car manufacturers, especially in America, they want to go to net zero because they've been retraining their whole retooling, and for them to say we're not going to do it now is like...
Not just for that reason, but also, as I'm sure you'll agree, because it's more profitable, right? They get to sell new cars. I mean, they have this whole thing, you know, they love the idea in exactly the same way, to be brutally honest, that the British airports did quite nicely out of 9/11 because by, you know, creating all these new jobs, creating all these new security measures, brutalising people psychologically, creating the necessity for an hour and a half sitting around in a departure lounge before the flight leaves, they sell, you know, they're the most profitable part. All of these things that they try and pretend are like some kind of great, you know, moral crusade, you know, they can make a lot of money out of. They will sell new cars. You know, they would much rather you bought a new car every 3 years.
They are. I mean, it should not be a surprise to anyone that we are ill prepared to achieve any of this by 2030. No. We're all prepared to achieve it by 2050, and it's just striving for an ideology, but it doesn't take into account any compromise whatsoever, and it just can't be done. You can't just cut over. You can't.
I mean, everyone's got their own anecdotal experience. I live in Brighton. I would quite like to have an electric car if everything was to fall into place. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. I quite like the ones that I, you know, get as taxis and so on. I mean, I doubt there's one car in 50 could get charged up in Brighton.
At a time.
No, nobody has driveways. These are Victorian houses, Georgian some of them, you know, apartment buildings. Where are people going to charge their cars? There is no facility for it.
Right, and it's putting the electric generation somewhere else. The greatest thing in the history of the world has been the use of fossil fuel. Yeah. It's made people warm and not hungry.
Absolutely. Let there be light.
Yeah.